I do not have one specific matchup that is favored for Dallas. Could this just be more bulletin board material for them to step up again, or do they just have no shot against the extremely well-rounded St. Louis Shock?
I am going to go on record. You can clip it, you can record it, that means that you watch the line and I'm okay with it. The St. Louis Shock are going to absolutely obliterate the Dallas Flash. To walk away without a title in this 3-year run, you spent $1.2 million on Anna Bright. It would be disappointing. I think it'd be a failure. I don't know how else to say it. And when you make videos, shock and awe, and when you have your own Barstool account, and when you are all over Twitter as an owner chirping, you put a massive target on your back. And if you're not successful, you open yourself up to criticism.
We back, Jimbo.
The line.
We had some pickle played in Newport Beach this last weekend, and it was a sight to behold. Some good matchups, some good level. The setup in Newport Beach with the grandstand and everything was popping. Look, the aesthetics look good. The numbers looked good of the fans, and it was a thrill to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. Stoney, it was full. We had celebrities. Mark Wahlberg was in the house. Did you get to meet Marky Mark?
Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. I did not. I'm not really that guy. I could be standing next to him and I wouldn't say anything to him, but I know some people will definitely go out of their way to get a little picture. He seemed really chill though in the interview, and he's a little guy like me. He's like 5'7", 5'8".
Yeah,
so
he's not a big guy. Now look, I'm not that guy either, but Marky Mark, I might make an exception.
That's like AAA list.
Yeah, we're at the top of it. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, he's up there. You gotta love that guy. Watch plenty of movies of his, and he was up there with old Jack Sock, made an appearance, and bring on the celebrities. That's good for pickleball when they're around.
Yeah, I love it. I love it when you see like other players too coming out to these players that aren't in the finals. Like it shows you like just how exciting it is, how much is on the line. Jack Sock, obviously his team was out and he shows up and is there to support. I think that's cool to see stuff like that.
I mean, Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch wants to roll up there. Sock's coming with him. He'll do whatever absolutely. He needs to hang out with that guy for a day for sure.
Adam, we had our first upsets of the playoffs. Now, I think we'll get in. Let's start with Dallas. Okay. Yep. Dallas, the easy comparison is Columbus Sliders last year, right? That's the easy comparison. We've talked about Mark Molson. We've talked about how that team was left for dead. They got zero points in Austin. We were both there. Both of our teams were there. We benefited from them sucking. 0 points in Austin. And instead of hanging it up, like I talked to Mark while I was there. I literally had this conversation. What are you going to do? And he's like, I don't know what's going to happen next year. I don't know about salary caps. I don't know about any of these things. And he's like, so do I blow it up and then, hope that next year things make sense? Or do I, make a run at it? And he basically was like, look, we're in this to try and win. Like, I'm a winner. Winners win. And Mark goes and makes some moves. And he goes and gets Danny. And he goes and gets Alex Trong. And, he trades Tyra, essentially a 2-month rental of Tyra Black to go get 3 years of Danielle.
Right. So people have said that's a win-win trade. But is it a win-win trade when Danielle...
If Columbus didn't win at all, I don't think it's a win-win trade.
No. I mean, Danielle is playing as good, if not better, than Tyra, in my opinion. And you're talking about 2 extra years of control after this year. And I mean, that's pretty lopsided when you're talking about team control in dollars and cents and the product that has been put out on the court. And, not that Columbus, shat the bed or anything like that. But I think that there was a little bit of disconnect amongst the team and they weren't just fully on the same page from a vibes perspective for the Sliders. And it cost them.
Tyra was sitting on that bench after women's, the third game versus Brooklyn with sunglasses on, and she did not look happy. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened with her in Paris. I don't know if it was Andre. I don't know if she just didn't like the situation, but the vibes were off for sure. And, it's like any team, like I'll use baseball as an analogy, trade deadline comes and in baseball, everybody unloads their top prospects for expiring contracts and players that can help them win now. That's essentially what Dallas did. But instead, the prospect they got back ended up outplaying the person that they traded. And so Dallas looks like, absolute superheroes here. So incredible trade. Dallas is red hot right now. They end up beating LA, which I don't think either you or I had that on paper. Now, there's always the question of which Ben Johns shows up. But for the 4th episode in a row, Adam Stone, who showed up and showed out and looked like the best player in the world?
James Walter Johnson, ladies and gentlemen.
He was phenomenal. Again.
Yeah, I mean, dude, every time I talk about it, the ball hits his paddle, things change in the point. He has so much elite raw power and great technique. It looks the same every time. It's simple. Not a lot can go wrong. And he just absolutely is locked in right now and playing great. And there was some ups and downs between this 3-game series for the role players. There were some ups and downs, but they stepped up when they needed to. Alex Strong, Brooke Buckner, Augustus Guh played well when they needed to against the Mad Drops, and it was the Mad Drops home tournament. They had a lot of people in the crowd. They had the ownership group there. But when there is just some tension in the air, because Ben does not like to lose, and I'm just not sure he had full trust in what the team was doing out there in between the lines. And that is part of the skill set that's important in MLP, is to get through that and continue to play your best and lift people up. And Ben is just not a tap you on the butt, you got this kind of rah guy. And I think that brings his stock down just a little bit in the MLP format.
Ben has high expectations for his partners, and he expects you to go out and do your job, and he's going to go out and do his job. And it's frustrating to him, it feels like, when that doesn't happen. And it doesn't make him a bad teammate. It doesn't make him a great teammate. It's just, Ben Johns holds everybody to a specific standard, and his standard is extremely high. And watching that, yeah. And watching that 3rd game, the best thing that I can say about it is the 3rd match, I don't even know. Yeah. LA's women came out, and for the first time in a while, they looked like we expected. They were dominant. I don't know if Jade and Catherine missed. And it felt like at the time, okay, LA's got this. They had a little hiccup the day before. Samantha Parker, they made that. I would say hindsight, it's a mistake playing Samantha Parker over Jade. Pulled off the bench, and she goes 0-8, and it was probably the 8 worst points I've ever seen played on a pickleball court. That didn't involve me. And so the next day they come out, they win women's. But then it felt like in men's, Max didn't have it. He just didn't have it. It wasn't his day. And it seemed like Ben kind of shut it down in men's. He shut it down. They lost 11-2, and he was like, look, I'm going to conserve. So they come out and mixed with Jade. And I don't think Ben played bad. I don't think Ben didn't give effort. I thought Ben played well. I thought Jade played well enough, but I thought J.W. Johnson was the best player on the court, and he was just too good.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to say that in a matchup that had Ben Johns on the court, but I think J.W. Johnson was just way too freaking good.
He was. And if Brooke is going to play at a certain level to extend rallies and set J.W. up to clean up and not have some loose errors like she did, that just makes J.W. look even better. I do agree with you with Ben. I mean, Dallas popped off 6. Ben went into I'm taking over mode. They got 5 more back quickly, and then JW and Brooke just stole the show, squashed it 11-6 in that matchup. And I do agree with you, Jimmy. The frustration from Ben in men's was pretty damn quick. Normally, he will give Max a couple errors, or he will stay at a certain level of positivity. It happened really quick in men's that Ben was showing frustration and muttering to himself under his breath and those kind of things. He did not give Max a lot of leeway, and that's just what it was.
Yeah, I mean, it's the biggest moment of the season. That is, no offense to Max, but that's not the time to come out and shit the bed, right? Like, that's when you got to be your best. And then in that final mix match, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but I don't think Catherine was good. I thought CG was okay, good enough, maybe 7 out of 10. I didn't think Catherine was great. And, that was a match that you probably expect them to win, to at least try to force that DreamBreaker. And look, Augie and Danny were really freaking good. And they end up winning that. And, Dallas is on their way. Dallas, who was a massive, massive underdog. If you would have put some money on Dallas, they've got to be, what are they right now in Polymarket? 8% to win the whole thing?
Yeah, I believe that's correct here.
It's probably
6%.
6%. It's probably worth a flyer at this point, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and the vibes are good. Danny's dancing in between points. I mean, she has a polarizing personality, but I kind
Yeah.
of like her style a little bit. Alex Strung was cheering after she got done with women's. They seem to be
Cowboy
connected.
hat. Yeah.
Yes, and I know winning helps that connectivity, but the vibes seem high for the Dallas Flash, and that means a little bit in a PPA tournament. That means a lot of bit in an MLP format, and so you got to tip your cap to them for having a well-rounded performance. Unfortunately, they will be playing the St. Louis Shock in New York, and I'm not sure that there is a level of high vibes that's going to get them through that one. But congrats to them taking down the LA Mad Drops and the best male player in the world, Ben Johns.
And that was obviously a big upset. I think Brooklyn, Columbus was, I don't know if I would even call it an upset at this point. I think a healthy Brooklyn team we all thought would be a top 4 team. They finally are starting to look like that if they can stay healthy. Obviously the Fives end up winning. They showed a little bit of crack there. I mean, Anna Leigh lost twice, and there's a little bit of like, what if, and there's a little, their men ended up losing to Palm Beach's men, which have really struggled this year.
Big D, Deckel Bar, played well.
Deckel looked insane. Few points there where the men were stacking on the right. You don't see that very often. But other than the Dallas upset over LA, we probably could have predicted this. I think it was 50-50 Columbus, Brooklyn. And so now we go into New York, Central Park, biggest event of the year. It's always packed. It's always incredible. The Fives get first pick, and they don't want the red hot J.W. Johnson and Dallas Flash, and they take the Brooklyn Pickleball Club. What are your thoughts on that? Because I'm not sure I would have done the same thing.
No, I agree with that sentiment. First off, business trip for St. Louis absolutely destroyed the Ranchers in Newport Beach. That was that. But
19 total points. 19 in 2 games.
I know it. And
Crazy.
I want to ask you this, Jimmy, because we're about to talk about the New Jersey Fives versus the Brooklyn Pickleball team. Who is mixed one for New Jersey? What's the best mixed team? Georgia and Fed, or Anna Leigh Waters and No Way Cliff, who struggled mightily and also put Anna Leigh on the left and had a big time comeback, even though they weren't able to win the game? Could we possibly see Anna Leigh on the left quicker in the semifinals or possibly finals? Or do you think they're just going to hold? I don't really know who the top mixed team is on that team.
I mean, it's too late to switch, right? It's too late to insert Will. Sure. It's too late to insert Fed with Anna Leigh. I actually thought they were going to go Fed Anna Leigh from the very beginning and just have now you guarantee you have almost a 99% chance that your women win, and you have a 99% chance that Anna Leigh and Fed win. And then worst case, you go to DreamBreaker. I thought that was the play, but Fed and Georgia have actually been the better team anyways. Now they're playing everyone's mixed too, but I mean, I don't know. It's hard to go against Anna Leigh Waters, but man, no way. He's getting iced out. I mean, they're icing her out, freezing him. She has to move to the left. He's missing dinks. There's insane amounts of pressure, right? Like I actually, I talked to someone the other day that has played with Ben in the past, and they were like, look, when you play with Ben Johns, when you win, you're expected to, and you get zero credit. When you lose, it's your fault. And the pressure, and it's the same with Anna Leigh Waters, right? And the pressure to play with those two is insane. And Noe's done fairly well, but now that we're getting into these upper echelon teams that can match them, Christian Alshon has been, we talk about J-Dub, Christian's been right there with him.
Monster.
Yes. And it's like, I think Christian and Rachel are favorites right now over Anna Leigh and Noe.
Absolutely. So I have my own little personal percentages on each of the matchups, and I'll run through that and see what you think. Now, One thing about New Jersey picking Brooklyn is Anna Leigh does have a pretty substantial amount of mental control over Christian on the mixed court. The PPA numbers are crazy lots. It's like 17-0 or something like that. But I have, for me, and I did this roughly here, Rachel and Jackie, which an extra week of rest for Rachel, who looked fine in Newport Beach, but was a hair hobbled specifically in the last match. I have Anna Leigh and Georgia 84% over Rachel and Jackie. I do think that a fully healthy Rachel, they absolutely have a chance to steal one from time to time against Georgia and Anna Leigh, but of course, that's not likely. Riley and Alshon, 62% over Fed and Howells. I put Alshon and Rachel 58% over Noe and Anna Leigh Waters. Fed and Georgia basically 2-1, 66% over Riley and Jackie. So I have two individual matchups of those four actually going the way of the Brooklyn pickleball team. Am I crazy, or does that kind of check out?
No, I mean, look, I think that Christian is favored in both of his matchups. I believe that. I think Christian and Riley are better than Fed and Will. I think that, than that men's team. I think that Noe and Anna Leigh have struggled. And I think that Christian, now, like you said, there's a little bit of mind control. There's a little bit of history there. There's the coaching with Leigh. There's the rumors, we'll say. The way Christian's playing right now, I feel like he is just going to bully them off the court. And Rachel, like you said, another week, can get healthier. Rachel is going to be fine. She's played AL Dub a million times, right? Like, yeah, I think that they're favored in that. Now, I'd say that last mixed match, I think Riley and Jackie have kind of underachieved a little bit. I think some of that is injury. There's not a lot of continuity. Riley hasn't really been healthy. I don't think Riley is as good in mixed. He doesn't really put a ball away anymore. And, he doesn't have that. Mixed has just changed. And if you can't put balls away and you can't end points, it's going to be, all of these women are very, very good.
I would say in a neutral firefight, heads up between Georgia and Riley, I don't know if I can take Riley.
I don't disagree.
In that scenario.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And so, but if Riley and Jackie beat Fed and Georgia, nobody would be surprised. But on paper, I definitely think Fed and Georgia are favored. So yeah, I agree with you. Now here's the question. We get to a dream breaker. Do we see Rachel? Because is she healthy enough? Because look, Hannah Blatt has done her best. Okay. Bless her ever-loving heart. She has done her best. And every dream breaker I've seen with Hannah Blatt, she hits one shot where I'm like, damn, okay. Yeah. And then she loses 3-1. And so, but that one shot's pretty incredible.
Right.
So can we get Rachel back into that dream breaker? Because if you can send out Hayworth and Alshon, two top 5 men, now you do have Fed, right? You do have Noe, who are also very, very good in their own right. Obviously, Fed's,
Howells was playing Dream Breaker for New Jersey.
That's right. Howells played Dream Breaker for him. That's right. So you can send out those guys. And then obviously you have the number 1 women's player in the world. I think Georgia, it would be clear top 10, if not higher, if she played more singles.
I think 4 points at a time, Georgia is very reasonably ranked. Like around, I would put her around 10, 4 points at a time, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if you can get Rachel back, and look, we know Jackie for 4 points is really freaking good.
Yes, she is.
That could swing things, I think, in Brooklyn's favor, possibly, because I think if you throw out Hannah and Jackie, I think Brooklyn's in trouble in a dream breaker. Yeah. If they can throw out Rachel, I think Rachel can neutralize it a little bit, right?
Yeah. So I mean, basically, I would say reasonably close to elite Hannah Blatt from a movement perspective. She moves really well, but shot making, it's not even really close between Hannah and Rachel. Rachel can pull off some angles, or she can rip a forehand or a backhand. So for me, the percentages on a dream breaker with Hannah Blatt in, I had 64% for New Jersey.
Yeah.
That's what I had with Hannah Blatt in. And so I think it's a great question to find out. Last MLP, whatever, do they pull that ripcord on Hannah Blatt and let Rachel just jump in there and try to slap some ground strokes and make a few passes and possibly carry the team to win? Great.
Well,
great
that's what it is, right? Like for 4 points at a time, you almost just have to go for it, right? You got to go for your shots. You got to try to pass, and grinding out points in dream breakers does, unless you're Jackie Kawamoto, who even she though hits some insane passing shots, right? Like for someone that doesn't play singles, it just seems like Rachel could get hot and would have a better chance, as opposed to Hannah. Like you said, she's a great mover. She's going to get to 7 balls and a point, but she's not really going to hurt you.
Sure.
And so, yeah, it'll be interesting. I would say if Rachel plays, New Jersey's still the favorite, but it's probably closer to like 57-43, something like that, 55-45.
Right. 60-40, something like that.
60, yeah. But I think that'll be interesting to see who they throw out there. And Hayworth hasn't been great. Let's be honest. Let's just call it what it is. He hasn't been great in Dream Breakers.
Yeah, let's actually, before we take a little look-see at St. Louis versus Dallas, let's talk about that death of the single specialist situation, because you had Sam Parker, like I said, poor thing, just did not play a clean game, a lot of mishits, never really got going in any capacity. Danny just had to lay the ball in the court and earn an unforced error. And then you also had Columbus, who was playing Brooklyn, who first DreamBreaker, they play Udic Castillo and AC Baby Alex Crum. They pulled the ripcord on that, lost that DreamBreaker, and then they put in CJ Klinger, gosh dang ice in his veins, and Tyra Black, and were able to win a DreamBreaker in that particular matchup. So, and you mentioned Chris Hayworth, we're getting close to a reasonable sample size too of around 100 points for Chris Hayworth in DreamBreakers this season, and it's very close to 50-50 for the top guy in the sport in that regard on the PPA Tour. So I think that a lot of teams next year are going to be paying attention to these numbers, and we'll see how the rosters are constructed.
Especially with the injuries that we've had this year. We've had obviously lots of injuries. We've had weddings that people had to attend to. We've had missed events because, it's not in my contract. We had Goldfish that Christian had to go buy. Whatever it is, when you have people missing events, it's like, look, those single specialists, you probably want someone, even if their singles is a little bit lower, you probably want someone that's a little more well-rounded. Now, Hayworth, I thought, filled in pretty good in mixed. With Jackie, I thought he was decent. And so maybe he's probably a guy that has a little bit of value there. But some of these other guys, look, Alex Crum, he swears that he's going to be a double specialist by next year, and I hope he is. But, a guy like Alex Crum, maybe his value, and he was very good until that last DreamBreaker.
Sure.
But with that being said, it's like, look, CJ was sick for weeks. Wouldn't it have been nice that if you had somebody else that you could have slid in there, to give CJ a little bit of a breather once in a while?
No, definitely. I agree with that. So roster construction for 2027 is going to be very interesting. Right now, for the New Jersey-Brooklyn matchup, if you want to take New Jersey, it's 83% for New Jersey. And I just think that's a little scary. That's a little scary to me to get that small 17 cents on the dollar return to put up 83 cents on the dollar for New Jersey. So, I'm of course they're favored to win, but
I love a good underdog.
Is that the play? Is that the play?
I love a good underdog. I might put some pennies on Brooklyn there, Adam. I like a good underdog. I think Brooklyn can upset them. I think that it's enticing enough at 17% that, I kind of like this.
Yeah.
I like Brooklyn here. I think Brooklyn's going to win that matchup.
Right. And right now you are not able to put that 17 cents because when the volume is a little bit lower, those do get some discrepancies higher than 100%. But I think as we get closer to the event, it's going to settle somewhere, and it might be a good look at possibly going with Brooklyn and see what happens. So, of course,
we have $30,000 on the MLP champ right now,
right.
Up for grabs.
And we'll go through those numbers after we talk about the second semifinal, which is the St. Louis Shock and the Dallas Flash. We've talked about Dallas being hot. We've talked about J.W. Johnson doing his thing and playing really solid, and the role players stepping up for Dallas. But for my percentages of those four matchups, I have Anna Brighton Kate versus Danielle Townsend, Alex Trunk, 78%. I have JW and Augie versus H and Gabe, 74%. Anna Bright Hayden Patrickman versus JW Johnson Brooke Buckner, 72%. And Gabe and Kate, a 58% favorite over Augie and Danielle Townsend. So I do not have one specific matchup that is favored for Dallas. Could this just be more bulletin board material for them to step up again, or do they just have no shot against the extremely well-rounded St. Louis Shock?
Well, listen, at risk of their social media clipping this and making a video and coming at me on Twitter and coming at everybody else, I am going to go on record. You can clip it, you can record it, that means that you watch the line and I'm okay with it. The St. Louis Shock are going to absolutely obliterate the Dallas Flash. It was cute. It was fun. It was a great run. Congratulations. You guys are, all the things, but your season is over. I hate to say it, but the Shock are absolutely going to wax them. They're playing too well. Like I said, Texas is no joke. They held them to 19 total points. I think Eric Onsens has a top 3 ceiling in the sport when he is on, and he looked atrocious. Hayden and Gabe just destroyed that man. They took his soul. They stomped on it. They probably walked out with their arm around Rachel Retker. I mean, they absolutely destroyed Texas. And I think they're going to do the same thing to Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to think that. And
Yeah.
they're like really the only thing that looked maybe a little fragile was some of the soft stuff from Anna Bright right in the first match. She kind of lofted some thirds in there and hit some really plain dinks, but it just didn't matter. You know what? Once she found her footing and once things got rolling, they're just an absolute wagon, and it's really hard to bet against them. And I think even though for the finals to win the entire championship, it's 52%. For the Fives, 48% for St. Louis Shock, and a couple small percentage points down for Brooklyn and Flash. I don't see how you cannot have St. Louis Shock as the favorites.
No, and maybe I'm forgetting Orlando way too quickly, but look, St. Louis is. I feel like St. Louis is a runaway freight train right now, and they're going to be tough. They're going to be tough to beat. I think when Hayden gets locked in and Hayden cares, right? Like we can talk about Ben and there's that stigma around Ben on if he cares and doesn't care. I think Hayden is very similar. And I think when Hayden cares and Hayden gets locked in, and honestly, when Hayden chirps, you can say whatever you want, but when Hayden starts to chirp, that means he's involved. He's in the match, right? That means he's focused. That means he's very much in the match, and it's just something that he needs. And look, Leia got him fired up, and they were chirping at each other, and he basically told Eric, hit a dink wide by 4 feet, and he told him how awful it was, worst thing he's ever seen. And that just means that Hayden is engaged.
Yeah.
And you don't want to see that. Like you may hate it on the other side of the net, but if you're a St. Louis Shock fan, if you're Ross Chaffetz, that's what you want to see.
No, absolutely.
Because he's dialed it.
Yeah, right. And I think the Chaffetzes they're a serious organization. And they want the dub as bad, if not more, than any other team. And to be in the third year with this elite roster construction with no titles, I think that lesser players from a mental perspective could crumble because this is the last chance and there's tons of pressure. I do not see that from the St. Louis Shock. I think they're going to step up and rise to the occasion. And, of course, have them favored to take down the Dallas Flash. And of the percentages that you can put money on for the 2026 MLP champion, 52% Fives, 48% Shock, 11% Brooklyn, 6% Flash. I know those don't add up to 100, but I think the best play here is the St. Louis Shock at just under 50 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw on X, somebody I believe they put 1,000 at the time on the Shock to win 2,100, something like that. So they got their 1,000 back, and then they get 1,100. So that's what it was at the time. I think that's a good play. I think that the Shock are the favorites right now. And yeah, look, this is it for them, right? We know that there's going to be some changes to the league next year. We know that Ross hates parity, but we're going to have some parity next year. And we're going to make some salary cap changes if everything goes as expected. And this could be it for them, right? I mean, they probably won't be able to construct their roster similar to how it is right now. And to walk away without a title in this 3-year run, you spent $1.2 million on Anna Bright. It would be disappointing. I think it'd be a failure. I don't know how else to say it.
It would be, because I think that's clear cut, actually. And let's just go for it, Shock, win your title, and let's just break down the roster and add a couple players to the SoCal Hard Eights and the California Black Bears that are currently on the St. Louis Shock.
Yeah, exactly.
See what 2027 has in store for that.
Yeah, I'll take freaking Hayden to play with Dylan and Sarah. We'd be all right.
Yeah, fine. You can have Hayden. I'll take Gabe. I mean, yeah.
Fine.
Let's.
Yeah, I think it'd be good. I think Armand and Gabe would be pretty freaking good.
Pretty salty team there. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And look, it's so Ross. You remember MLP Cup? Ross had that trophy on the plane. I mean, he had the trophy from MLP Cup. He had it sitting courtside at a St. Louis Billikens basketball game. They were very proud of that. So I can only imagine. I mean, we might see a parade. We might see a parade if the Shock win this whole thing.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprising. And they're
don't do it at night
to make that happen.
But yeah, you definitely don't do it at night. St. Louis is scary, but yeah, this would be like the pinnacle for them. And they need it. To be honest, they need it because, like I said, they've spent a lot of money on this roster.
Yes.
They're a very serious organization. I give them all the credit in the world for how they run their team.
Yes.
Right? It feels like they're one of the teams that runs this like a true professional sports franchise. But when you do that, and when you make videos, shock and awe, and when you have your own Barstool account, and when you are all over Twitter as an owner chirping, you put a massive target on your back. And if you're not successful, you open yourself up to criticism. So it'll be interesting.
Absolute facts.
But I do think that they're favorites. And if I had to if I was allowed to bet on Polymarket, which I am not, but trust me here, I would put my money on the St. Louis Shock.
Yeah, and it's so important, too, because the Shock were available. I know we've already played a round of the playoffs and have some extra information, but the Shock were available for around 30% or a little bit higher than that just a couple weeks ago. So it's important to kind of check the lines as things develop. Also, the lines that we just talked about, they're still a week away from starting the event in New York. So keep an eye on Polymarket, check the line, see if you can find a little dip or scoop up some value as things change and the volume on Polymarket goes up leading into New York.
Listen, with our heavy influence and our massive viewership of the line, we are going to single-handedly change the lines on Polymarket as soon as this drops.
That's
so right. You watch the premiere of this, and then you might want to jump on right away.
Now we need to get up over. I think we're in that 2,000 range. We need to get up a little. We need to break the 3,000 barrier and then get going. And I think
guys.
Jimmy, I do think that there's a very good chance that we're going to carry this over for the PPA season. So I think that we've seen the Polymarket QR code on the broadcast in Newport Beach. I think that's going to continue, and they're going to be a great partner moving forward. So it's here to stay. So check it out. Put a little sauce down on your favorite team and ride the wave.
Look, nothing makes pickleball is already fun to watch, and pro pickleball is incredible. But I promise you, when you're living and dying every point because there's a little extra on the line, it makes it even more fun.
For sure.
Right? I mean, I remember, I think I've mentioned this before, but a few years ago when gambling first happened, and it was Kansas City, I believe, and Jay DeVilliers was playing who was he? He was playing Anik Lohani.
Okay, yeah.
And Jay was favored by 6. It was Jay plus 6. And Jay won the first game like 11-3, right? And the way it worked at the time is Jay wins the second game. He won 11-3. If he wins 12-10, Jay covers, right? And Anik Lohani ends up winning the second game. And everybody's online, and this is when the YouTube comments were still live. So everyone's betting on it. And they're online and they're like, just close it out, Jay, close it out. And everyone's going crazy. So then when Lohani wins, you're like, crap, right? I think he ended up winning. I think he won 12-10. So now it's sitting at 6. And so now you're like, man, Jay just has to win this third game, and everyone's like just living and dying on every single point. And it was so exciting because you're like, not only were you rooting for someone to win, but you needed them to win by a certain amount. And it just added an element that was just a lot of fun. And, Polymarket is doing that for MLP now, and pick your horse, get behind it. I would pick the Shock if I was anybody, but hey, what do I know? But Adam, I also think, I think that my hot take is that it's going to be Shock and Brooklyn in the finals over Brooklyn over the 5s.
Let's go. I like hot takes, and while I can't jump over that cliff with you, I will say it's more reasonable than you might think, and it's going to be a very exciting 2 out of 3 matchup for the semis and the finals in New York City. I think they're going to add an extra grandstand. The big one that they had in Newport Beach, there's going to be 2 of those there. So it's going to be popping, and I'll be on the call, and I'm really excited for these matchups for sure.